Jovan Buha! Buha!
Yo, I'm Jovan Buha, Lakers beat writer for The Athletic, and welcome to a Lakers Q&A. Happy Friday, everybody. It's been a minute since we've done one of these. Obviously, we do the post-game reaction, live streams, and Q&As there, but you guys wanted me to do at least one weekly stream, and I'm thrilled to be here with you all. So let's get into it. But first, before we get started, you guys know the drill. As always, anyone watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications, and like and comment on this video. And for those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. All right, let's get into the chat here. Lego Tortoise Builder, Rui is back. Yes, Rui is going to be back for a big game against Denver. And that is Lakers just dropped the injury report, and AD is the only one listed on it outside of the guys who are already out. So you got AD as probable, and Rui Hachimura is back, which is a big boost for the Lakers. They're really going to need him against Denver. Big Baby Sports said, hit the like button and subscribe. Yes, sir, Big Baby. Sky Falcon 5, Hayes back to no. Jackson Hayes is still out. Jackson Hayes is out. Bronny James is out. Quincy Oliveri is out. Vando's out. Christian Wood is out. Daily Meditation, would you trade for Donte DiVincenzo? Yes, when I've talked about either a big wing or a small wing slash like shooting guard type, Donte DiVincenzo fits that latter category of a smaller wing. I think he would fit perfectly as the starting shooting guard next to Austin Reeves in the backcourt. He's a guy who could play easily 30-plus minutes a night, and I really like how he'd fit. Lego Tortoise Builder, Jovan, how do you media people get the Lakers press release stuff so early? So we actually, 1 second, putting my phone on airplane mode. We get, we're in a group chat with Lakers PR, and they will typically give us the update first. It depends, like injury report stuff. Typically, we just get it. There's a Lakers PR account that tweets it out, but sometimes they'll give us a heads up if like some big news is coming of maybe someone that we weren't expecting to be out is going to be out. They'll give us the head nod of like, or they'll just give us the notification that something is coming, and it'll be like, hey, we're having an injury update in like 5 minutes. Just be on the lookout for that. So that's how it works. Dark Galaxy, hey Jovan, hey Dark Galaxy. Hamim, any update on the Jonas news? What would a trade package be for him? So Jonas, I think it would probably be something like Gabe and a first. What would be my guess? I'm sure the Lakers would try to fight to make it like a lottery protected or top 15 protected first, something like that. But it would probably be from a financial perspective. I mean, you could also do like JHS and Maxwell Lewis and Christian Wood, or so, like you could cobble together multiple contracts to get up to Jonas Valanciunas' number, but the easiest one would be Gabe or Vando for Jonas. I assume Vando's got a longer deal than Gabe. Maybe Vando still is the more attractive player. I would assume he is, but obviously factoring in the extra year, if I'm Washington, I want a shorter term deal. So I might prefer Gabe to Vando in that sense, because Washington's not trading really at this point. Like if it's between Gabe and Vando, it's not really about helping that team. It's more about just getting the first round pick from the Lakers, getting off the Jonas deal. But Gabe's contract is obviously not good right now, especially with the way that he's been playing. So I think something like Gabe and a first would be, I would say, the loose framework to that. Kevin Cambridge, Jovan, I feel like you get this question a lot, but who's the Lakers' most realistic trade target? I would say Jonas is probably the most realistic just because he was on LeBron's free agency list and he's been I think Washington is going to trade him. It's just a matter of where. And there has been buzz with him in the Lakers, and like that's been a name you constantly hear. And I know Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report just reported again today that he's been attached to the Lakers and the conversations that he's had. So I would say Jonas is probably the most realistic. I think Walker Kessler, depending on the price, might be up there. And then maybe like they've had conversations with the Nets over the last couple of years when they had Kyrie, and there were some talks over the last year and a half with different, with DFS or different guys. So I think the something with the Nets or Jonas Valanciunas, I would say is probably the most likely if I had to bet. Kevin Cambridge, also thank you for streaming tonight. Yes, well, you guys asked for it, and I've really been enjoying streaming more and answering you guys' questions. So, yeah. Sky Falcon 5, I don't get the interest in Jonas. He's not playable in the playoffs versus good teams. This has been my thing. I am not a Jonas Valanciunas guy. I like the offense and I like the rebounding, but he is a defensive liability. And to me, on this team, I don't think he's good enough to, like, I think Rui and Dalton are both better than him. So I don't think he's good enough to come in and start. So if you're acquiring this guy to be a backup center who's playing 20 to 25 minutes in the regular season and then potentially playing 12 to 15 minutes in the playoffs, is that worth a first round pick? I'm not sure. And that's where I have the issue with acquiring him. But to your point, he's not a good defender. He does not have good mobility or foot speed. He could be attacked in pick and rolls. And even if you're going to put him in a drop and say we're going to shift the defensive scheme when he's out there, he's still not necessarily good as a drop big. I think his strength as a defensive player is post defense and defensive rebounding. And those are two things the Lakers could use help in. But I still think like there are other players who are comparable to him in those regards that probably won't cost the first round pick and or are just better defensively in general. So I just would rather have a player who doesn't cost the first round pick or is just better defensively compared to him, like overall. So that's where my Jonas, I'm not saying it can't work, but if people are the popular comparisons for the Lakers getting a big, it's always JaVale and Dwight, right? And Jonas cannot be more different than those two players in terms of like those guys were rim running lob threats. Like if anything, offensively, they're similar to Jackson Hayes or a Christian Coloco, but then and better than both, I would say, but similar skill sets. And then defensively, they were rim protectors, rim deterrents and shot blockers, and like just completely different than Jonas on that end of the floor. So I don't. For people, I get people wanting a backup big. I get people wanting an interior upgrade, but I don't think Jonas Valanciunas checks as many boxes as people think he does. Angelco Ezorad Rezo. Jovan, what do you think the Lakers should trade for that will help them deal with Aaron Gordon and MPJ? It's a good question because really when you're thinking about the Denver matchup, like LeBron's going to have to deal with one of those two, right? Like you can't hide LeBron in this matchup. If you're going to have 80 on Jokic, LeBron has to deal with Gordon or MPJ. Between the two, I actually kind of like LeBron more on MPJ. I think it's a simpler defensive task, and it's just chase him around screens and stick in his jersey. And I think LeBron has actually had some nice stretches against MPJ. I don't like him as much on Aaron Gordon just because I think Gordon is one of the few guys LeBron's size that's actually stronger than him, or he's been able to move LeBron in rebounding positioning, and like Aaron Gordon's just a beast, right? He's legit 6'10", 250, can jump out the gym. So I would say I think you need someone more to match up with Gordon. That's where a guy like Jonas Valanciunas, like maybe you could put him on Jokic and put AD on Gordon, or put Valanciunas on Gordon and just have him wrestle him in the paint. But like, it's tough. Aaron Gordon is a difficult matchup. And, if you could get, I guess, a bigger four, but there aren't many guys who, I think it's a lot of guys, it's like centers or wings. And even a guy like a Jeremy Grant, like Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe, but he's still a couple inches shorter than Gordon. Gordon's got a good 20, 25 pounds on him. So maybe even more. So Gordon's a really tough player to match up with. Hamim, can we trade for Jonas yet, or do we have to wait till December 15th? I remember someone saying that earlier. He's not eligible to be traded until December 15th. Alkionico, would you do a 3-team trade that would net Walker, Kessler, Cam Johnson, and Bruce Brown? Yes. Problem with that would be that would be a 4-team trade because Kessler's on Utah, Cam Johnson is on Brooklyn, Bruce Brown is on Toronto. So you need a 4-team deal. That does get, the more teams you add, it gets complicated. But if there was a way to do that, yes. Count Zurich, has JJ talked about how he feels about fouling up 6 now since last week? It got converted into a 3-point play against him. He has not. I do want to ask him about late game fouling and that stuff. I think he's shown an interest in fouling, and I think it's worth discussing, probably out of practice more so than out of game. Okay, so you got a couple super chats here. First one from Anthony Gray. Thank you for the super chat. Why don't we get a free agent big? For example, Dwight Howard. We are thin at the position currently. So the Lakers don't have a open roster spot. That's the biggest impediment to them getting a free agent of any kind, let alone a big man. And they cannot, because of the new CBA rules and because they're above the first apron, they can't just waive someone and sign someone. That dead money would still count against the cap, and it would basically be like the players off the team, but they're still paying them, and it's still counting against the cap. So the Lakers would need to make a trade to clear a roster spot. You could do something like attach a 2nd-round pick to Christian Wood and dump him somewhere, or JHS or Maxwell Lewis, whatever. They have not shown any indication that they're going to do that. They could have done that all summer. They could have done that in training camp. They didn't do that. So I would assume they're not going to do that. Maybe they do, but it seems like for now, the roster is what it is. And if there is any changes, it's going to come in the form of a trade, but probably a like mid-size deal or a bigger deal rather than just dumping someone and signing someone. BLC, thank you for the super chat. Best fit for the Lakers are Brook Lopez and Mo Wagner. Yeah, I like both guys. I think Brook is a little bit, he's declined on both sides of the ball. He's still an elite shot blocker, elite rim protector, but the mobility, you have to play a certain style of drop coverage with him. The Lakers don't necessarily have the defensive personnel to maximize his defensive skill sets, or a skill set rather. I think if you're going Brook Lopez in a drop, you want that Drew Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, like pitbull point of attack defender on the ball handler. Lakers don't really have that. I guess you could try it with Cam Reddish or Vando if and when he comes back. But I like Brook, especially. I assume it would cost the first, but yeah, I wouldn't pay more than that. Mo, it was great last night. It was interesting. They were minus 12 in his minutes, but it felt like the Magic were just kicking the Lakers' ass whenever he was out there. He had 19 points and really, he scored on AD multiple times. He was taking it to everybody. So another in-house guy that has had success elsewhere. But yeah, I think either one, Brook, they would probably consider starting. Mo, I think, would be a backup, but either one of those would be a great addition to the front court. To Angel Vid 360, if we trade a 1st-round pick for Jonas, I'll legit leave the fan base and go watch in EuroLeague. I don't want to say you are going to be leaving the fan base, but it's certainly a possibility. Pugzilla, yo. I know Time Lord is always hurt, but his healthy version will be a massive upgrade on that backup 5. Yeah, I would love Time Lord if I'm the Lakers. I would give up a first round pick for him. Seems like because of now how he's playing and Portland situation, they're, I think, playing hardball with him, but in terms of giving him up or how they're valuing him. But I would, I mean, they already got DeAndre Ayton, they got Donovan Clingan. That's the center of their future. If I'm them, if I could get a first for Robert Williams, I would sell high. Chris M, love how seriously JJ takes these losses. He'll never be comfortable unless we get a win. Yeah, it's been crazy because, like, and I've said I want to retire the Darvin comparisons, and I do, but Darvin had a much more laid back personality and in some ways a healthier personality or perspective of just like, this is 1 of 82. You know, we're going to bounce back. We're going to go over film. We're going to practice. We're going to have shoot around, whatever. And we're going to move forward. JJ is like sitting in it. He's called himself a masochist and like a sicko. And he said he's going to go home into his basement, turn off all the lights and rewatch the film. So 2 totally different approaches. You could say Darvin's approach is healthier, but I think it's, I lean more toward the JJ your perspective of just, it's good to have someone who really cares that much and is just obsessed with it and is going to be going over the film that night obsessively and just replaying the game in their head and going over what they could have done better. So, but yeah, it's been something to see because after every loss, like there's not been a loss where JJ's been chill after yet. Now, granted, the Lakers have not lost often, so maybe that will progressively happen throughout the course of the season, but he's been like so upset after every loss, and it's been very telling. FJ Betaphile, defensive rebounding is the prob. I agree with you. To me, defensive rebounding is the second biggest issue for the Lakers. I think the biggest issue is the perimeter defense. I just don't think they have good enough perimeter defense. And really, you could even say like 1 through 4 defense. You know, AD is AD, one of the best defenders in the league. But I just think their ability to contain the ball, their ability to match up in transition, the switching and not being picked on, like they just have too many liabilities out there. They typically have at least 2 guys that an opposing offense can target on any given possession. And that to me is the biggest issue because that's what causes then AD has to rotate over. And now all of a sudden, Austin Reeves or D'Lo or Gabe or even Max is trying to box out a Mo Wagner or a Jonathan Isaac, or, you know, pick your bigs from whatever team. And it's often like, I think the defensive rebounding is a result of the defensive breakdowns that are happening on the perimeter and then them being cross-matched with bigger players. Certainly there's an element of like, this team doesn't always have the best motor and the focus and awareness and willpower isn't always there. But I think that the biggest thing, in my opinion, is the inability to stop the ball and the inability to not be picked on or targeted with certain off-ball or on-ball screens and actions that then leads to a breakdown where AD, LeBron, Jackson, whoever is then having to be in firefighter mode, helping on the backside. And then that leads to some of those mismatches on you know, in the around the basket where a big is matched up now with a small. So I'm not saying it's not an issue. I think it's a big issue, but I think if you stop it, to me, it's sort of a ripple effect of how bad the perimeter defense is. If you can improve the perimeter defense, in part by getting Vando back, but also by maybe doing a separate move or two to add in a couple of better defenders in the rotation overall, that to me is going to have a ripple effect of, okay, now and I know they've been solid in the half court, but transition is such a big part of the game and they've really struggled getting back and matching up that I just think it's that to me is the biggest issue. And then second is rebounding, but it might even be more like a 1A, 1B situation. I personally think it's the lack of perimeter defense. Gemini, what do you think the asking price for Isaiah Stewart from the Pistons would be if they decided to tank midseason? I would guess they'd probably ask for a first, if I had to guess. Chaz McGill, Jovan, what do you think of this trade proposal? D'Lo, Reeves, Gabe, and 2 seconds for Levine. I think it's too much. I would rather have Austin Reeves than Zach LaVine, especially when factoring in the contracts. Zach LaVine's making $41 million. Austin Reeves is making $13 million. I don't think there's a $28 million gap there. And the Lakers would not do this trade. So, like I've said before, it's probably, I don't want to put a number on it because then I don't want to get aggregated saying a certain thing, but it would have to be a very, very high level all-star player. I would not put Zach LaVine in that like high level all-star. I think he's more of a fringe all-star, like top 40, top 45 guy. And, so to be clear, I think he's better than Austin Reeves, but I don't think he's $28 million better than Austin Reeves. I've seen some DFS and Schroeder like that. That's the popular fan, package that the fan base wants. I get it. Diego Cardona. Hey, Jovan, who are some center options besides Jonas and Walker that fall under Gabe's salary number? Well, you could do, so like Nick Richards is making 5, so you could do Nick Richards plus someone else. Caleb, I forget which Martin it is on. I think it's Cody. On Charlotte. And then you could do Robert Williams, I think, is pretty much in that. It's tough to keep track of everyone's salaries off the top of my head. But I think Robert Williams is in that mix with, he's making this year. Let's see, pulling up Spot Track. He's making 12.5, so that LA would need to throw in an extra contract. Maybe they do Gabe and Christian for Robert Williams and something else. But Lakers in 7. Jovan. Thoughts on Gabe Vincent and Max Christie these past 5 games? Gabe, so I mean, I think Gabe's defense has been good. I just think because of the Lakers scheme, there are times he's able to be exploited by opponents picking on him in switching situations. Now, the offense has been awful. Like he's been so passive. He's not shot the ball well, and it's caused him to overthink and then become a bit reactionary and passive. So I think between the two, Max has been the better player since re-entering the rotation. I said it last night. I think Max has basically played more than Gabe every game that he's been back. Part of that was because Cam missed a couple games, Rui's missed a few games, so they have needed some extra wing help, some extra size on the perimeter. But I just think Max Christie's straight up better than Gabe Vincent. I think he's played better than Gabe Vincent, and I think Gabe should be the one coming out of the rotation moving forward with Rui back now. So I think if I'm looking at what I think the starting lineup will be tomorrow versus Denver, I think it'll be Austin, Cam, Rui, LeBron, and AD. And then I think the 9-man rotation will be Dalton, D'Lo, Christian Coloco, and Max Christie. I think those are your 9 that you play against Denver. Abdul Hakim Umar. So my question is, can we trade Gabe, D'Lo, and JHS and a first-round pick and a second-round pick? Then we trade Rui and a first for DFS. Do you think this is possible? So I'm not sure what you didn't say a package with that first trade, but yeah, I mean, depending on what you're getting back with that first deal, certainly possible that you could do. Just remember with the Lakers, the first apron trade restrictions, they cannot take back more players than they're giving up, and because they have a full roster, and then they also cannot take back more money. So any trade the Lakers make, they have to be taking back the same exact dollar amount or fewer dollars back. They have to be shedding money. So just remember that with any trade. I think Rui's making more than DFS, so it'd have to actually be. So I guess if you could stretch this into like a 3-team deal, maybe depending on, again, I don't know what you were thinking with that first trade, but if you're doing Rui, for DFS plus something, you'd have to be then rerouting, like shedding another player somewhere else for that to work. Let's see. Thank you to Amalia. Shout out Amalia for the super chat. And thank you to Norma. Hi, Jovan. We are so proud of you. Your dad, Dragon, wants to know, was the Lakers defense weak against the Magic due to being undersized? Please hit the like button. Thanks. Gracias. Voila. So first off, thank you. Second off, be sure to hit that like button if you've not done so yet. Yeah, I mean, Lakers are like, Orlando's a tough matchup for the Lakers. They have almost a size advantage at least 3 of the 5 positions, if not 4 in most lineup configurations. So Orlando's just, they're bigger, they're longer, they're stronger, they're more athletic. And I thought last night really highlighted nothing we didn't know already, but it really did highlight the lack of speed and athleticism and length on the perimeter for the Lakers and their inability to match up with one of the bigger teams in the league. Like when the Lakers have the size advantage, it's clear, and you see that with the points in the paint, with the free throws, with the rebounding, but it's also clear when they're facing a bigger team. And I thought like Orlando dominated the glass last night, even though the Lakers attempted more free throws, had more points in the paint. It just felt like Orlando imposed their will, and LA was driving a lot. They were able to get downhill a lot, but Orlando, like it had I said it last night, but it felt like a playoff game, honestly, with the way that the whistle was going. Orlando was really, they were hacking the Lakers a lot, but if you're going to hack and get away with it, you're going to keep hacking, and that's just how it goes. And the Lakers, I felt like they eventually played through it, but they had stretches where they were getting upset, not getting back in transition, and like you just can't have that in a good, against a good opponent in a close game. So certainly, I think this highlighted some of the roster flaws. Luis de Jesus, Jovan Buha, Puerto Rico in the house. Good to see you, my friend. They need someone to help Anthony Davis. Yeah, I mean, I would say, like I think that the big man situation is certainly an issue. I just think I don't think JJ Redick, the way he plays offense and his stylistic, coaching sensibilities, he does not scream a guy who wants to play 2 bigs a lot together, unless that big is a knockdown 3-point shooter or very versatile defensively, or ideally both. Like if the Lakers get Miles Turner, sure, I think that's a situation where you could see 2 big looks. He can space the floor, he can protect the rim, he's versatile enough to play next to AD. But a plodding center, I just don't see playing a lot on this team. I don't see JJ Redick really liking that type of player and playing them a lot. So that's my thing when we talk about the center spot. I'm trying to be realistic and look at it as like, I just think there's a limitation to whatever that player is, like what their role is going to be. Whereas a wing, if you can get the right wing, that player can play 30, 35, 38 minutes a night, depending on who it is. And if it's a 2-way wing, I think that helps out more overall than a backup center in like a 20-minute role. But certainly if you could add both, I think the Lakers should add both. I just think the wing's a bigger priority. Stu R. Hey, Jovan, have you asked D'Lo or JJ what happened to his jump shot? It's mechanically off from last year. Appreciate the work you do. I have not yet, but it's a good question, and it is something that I've noticed. D'Lo's had some, like last night he had 3 air balls, I think, and he'll occasionally have that, but like not like that. It has felt like D'Lo's jumper has just been off for whatever reason. So I am interested in that to kind of figure out like what's going on. Justine Severo, automatic click when notification pops out. I appreciate you. Isaac Jacobson, Austin's contract is so insanely valuable. I don't see them trading him. Yeah, that's what I think people like. Austin Reeves if Austin Reeves was a free agent this past summer or was not a restricted free agent the previous summer, he's making 20 plus million and maybe even 25 plus million. And that to be making half that almost it's a really good value. Jan Morales, I don't remember the last time Rob made a trade that leaked beforehand. Any chance all these rumors are smoke and mirrors? Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Like, I will say, I reported right before the Westbrook trade that the two teams I was hearing the Lakers were likely going to trade him to were Utah or Utah or Toronto were the two teams. And that ended up being the case. They had a 3-team deal with Minnesota and Utah. LA ended up getting D'Angelo Russell and Vando and Blake Beasley. So I think like there'll sometimes be stuff that pops out or telegraphs, but for the most part, Rob has done a really good job of keeping things under wraps, and that's why like it's tough to report on the Lakers trade situations because teams love to link themselves to the Lakers because that gets their client or their player more publicity and people are going to be talking about it, and that potentially raises their value. But the Lakers are very hush hush with this stuff, and for competitive and I mean it makes sense why they would do that. But yeah, I mean I think that there's always a chance that like that's why I try not to talk in absolutes with trades because there's always a chance that, with the exception I would say like LeBron James literally cannot be traded, and I think I don't think they're going to trade AD, but LeBron, because of the timing of his contract, cannot be traded. AD, they're not going to trade. And Bronny, they're not going to trade. I can say those three will not be traded, but everyone else, technically, there's a chance that any of them can be traded. Now, I think you go down the list of like, okay, Austin, they value very highly. They really like his contract. They only want to move him for a certain caliber of player. So you factor that in. Then obviously, Dalton now has elevated to a certain stature where I think it would take a lot to trade him. But then everyone else, it's sort of either negative value or neutral value, and it just comes down to like what are they getting back, what's the price. So certainly a chance that there's some smoke and mirrors going on, and maybe Rob has something planned sooner than expected. But from talking to both Lakers people and people around the league and rival scouts and executives and stuff, it sounded like everyone's operating under the assumption that the Lakers will be trading closer to January, if not that week or so, a few days or so leading into the February 6th trade deadline. Dark Galaxy, Max better than Gabe. Yes. Daily Meditation, Dalton should be starting. Yeah, I mean, there's still a chance he could be starting. So as I talked about last night, I asked JJ pregame if he was going to keep Dalton in the starting lineup and what was going to happen when Rui came back. And he said that he has not made a definitive decision yet, but that Rui is going to be returning to the starting lineup, but they're still figuring out the starting lineup. So that, to me, I read that as they're viewing it as AD, LeBron, Rui, and AR are the 4 starting locks. And then that 5th spot is between Dalton and Cam. Now, of course, Dalton is better than Cam and has been more important than Cam, but Cam is a much better perimeter defender. He's really been their only reliable perimeter stopper in this early part of the season. So I could see Cam keeping that role just to stay in that like 20 to 24 minute a night role, defending an opponent's best player to start each half and maybe closing with him in certain scenarios. But I think Dalton is like, to me, Dalton, whether he's starting or coming off the bench, he's probably going to be the 4th highest minute getter on this team or 5th at worst. But I think we're going to see a lot of, even if it's not the starting lineup, we're going to see a lot of AR, Dalton, Rui, LeBron, and AD. And that's going to be a lineup that either starts games potentially, but it certainly closes a lot of games, plays in important shifts together. It is an offensive-minded lineup, and there's a lot of perimeter defensive concerns there, but the Lakers offense might be so good with those 5 together that it just might not matter. Kevin Cambridge, my apologies if you don't want to get into the story, but a couple of post-game streams ago, you briefly mentioned having an awkward 3 months while covering the Clippers. What happened? We could get into it. I reported January 2020, so 2 months before COVID, or the COVID outbreak widespread outbreak. You know, we don't have to get into that, but I reported on the locker room issues and internal strife within the Clippers. And so I was Clippers beat reporter at the time. I covered the Clippers for 2 years for The Athletic before I moved over to the Lakers right after they won the bubble title. And so that was a big story. It was a national story. It was on First Take and all the big sports shows were talking about it. And it was my first big story break as a young reporter. I was 26 at the time. 27. And it was really awkward because like that's one of the tough things. And it's the balance I try to strike right now when I do these streams and when I'm covering the team in a podcast and stream format is like, I have to face these guys every day, right? As a beat reporter, you are seeing them at practice, shoot around, games, in the locker room, before games, after games, in tunnels, and any criticism I have, if it goes viral or if I report something and it goes viral, then they're going to be aware of it. And obviously the Clippers were not happy about that getting out. And it was a pretty awkward couple months there where just guys not wanting to answer my questions, guys that I was cool with no longer being cool with me. And it's one of the kind of downsides to being a beat reporter is you kind of have sometimes these fork in the road moments of like, do I report this or do I not? And I stand by all my reporting. I believe I was proven right when the Clippers collapsed in the bubble. The first thing that multiple players said in their post-game availabilities was, we never established chemistry. We weren't on the same page. And a lot of the stuff that I was saying earlier in the season, ended up happening. So I think what I report, and I continue to report more later in the season, I think in like October, November, sort of more on like the bubble sort of strife that was there. But it's tough to report negative stuff while you're covering a team because everyone looks at you differently. But at the same time, it's my job to do that. No one else was going to touch the story. And I felt like it was my obligation as hopefully an objective reporter to, so the first one was with Sam Amick. Second one was by myself, but we had like 13 sources on that story. So it was pretty well vetted in terms of all the intel that we had gotten. But so that was tough. But so, I mean, then COVID happened, and that kind of gave me a break from like dealing with it on a daily basis. But it is tough to report. And I mean, last year I reported on the Darvin stuff, and like me and Darvin were never the same in terms of our personal relationship. And it didn't affect my relationship with any of the players because obviously the players weren't exactly seeing eye to eye with Darvin. But I mean, when you report negative stuff, it certainly affects things. Dark Galaxy, Jovan, have you ever asked a celebrity for a picture at a Lakers game? If so, who? No, I have not. That's like kind of one of the unwritten rules is you just don't do that stuff. Like obviously if you build a rapport with someone, then that's a different situation. But I wouldn't do that. I would say like the coolest person I've interacted with at a Laker game is Denzel Washington because he knows Brad Turner, who's LA Times reporter, covers both the Lakers and the Clippers. And so BT has been covering the Lakers since the 80s. And so he got to know Denzel through the years. And Denzel would come over to press row and talk to us. And so I've interacted with Denzel a few times, and that's been really awesome because he's such a lifelong Lakers fan, like NBA junkie. And he's also arguably the greatest or one of the greatest actors of all time. So that's like one of the coolest moments for me in terms of interacting with a celebrity. I've seen a lot of fighting about Austin. Daily meditation, you know how to rile up the chat. But I appreciate the questions. I appreciate you watching. Jan Morales following up again. Is it true that Rob, quote unquote, works on the shadows with trades? If so, are the rumors from sources or guesses from people with common knowledge of the Lakers? Yes. I mean, kind of similar to your earlier question. Like, yes, Rob is good at keeping things secret. Now, it is hard to keep secrets in the NBA. And even if he's keeping it a secret, maybe internally within the Lakers, if he has conversations with other front offices, agents, whatever, that is inevitably going to leak because it's impossible for everyone to keep a secret. So that's why you hear like kernels of stuff. But I think from the Lakers side, at least, there's been pretty good secret keeping. Leon G. No way, Jovan live on a Friday. Yes way. I would love to have a consistent time to go live. It's just, if you look at the schedule week to week, it's not like the Lakers play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday every week. Otherwise, I'd love to do this on Fridays. But yeah, I would like to do this at least once a week moving forward. It's probably going to change week to week. See, we got a question from Sanjay. Thank you for the super chat. Jovan, do you think drafting Dalton makes Rob hesitant to give up a future first round pick? Not necessarily. If anything, I think it potentially pushes the Lakers into a situation where having another high level rotation player allows them to give up. Like, I think, for example, like to me, D'Lo is more expendable because already D'Lo was getting with them empowering Austin and empowering AD and those two guys having their usage increase. We saw it with the starters, especially, and now D'Lo hasn't even been closing every game. Like D'Lo was going to be marginalized with the new offensive pecking order and hierarchy. So I think D'Lo's value primarily then would be off-ball shooting and his catch and shoot ability. But now Dalton's doing that at a higher level. Like Dalton's a better shooter than D'Lo. He's not a better off the dribble. Like D'Lo can hit some crazy shots, and we've seen the flurries, and so I'm not trying to make like that comparison. But as a just pure shooter, running off screens, like doing what Dalton did against Utah and New Orleans, and even I would say against Orlando, like Dalton is a superior shooter and off-ball threat, and he's also bigger, and I think could do more stuff with attacking the rim and just a little bit more athletic and a better rebounder. But I say Dalton makes a guy like D'Lo a little bit more expendable, especially for the role that D'Lo's been playing. Like he has been facilitating a bit with the second unit. So I think Dalton obviously is nowhere near the ball handler or playmaker that D'Lo is. But for the role of like D'Lo just be a catch and shoot guy, Dalton could do it at a higher level. So I actually think, like, I get what you're saying, that maybe the Lakers could look at it as, hey, we should keep our first round picks. And obviously the scouting department has been great over the past decade of nailing, with the exception of Jalen Hood-Schifino. And I mean, there's always going to be some misses, but they've done a great job. And I think that's like the drawback. But the truth is, if the Lakers are worrying about 2029 and 2031, LeBron's going to be theoretically retired. We'll see. And then AD is going to be late 30s, mid to late 30s. So at that point, like, you have a different team, right? So I think if anything, it allows the Lakers to be a little bit more aggressive with upgrading the roster. Rob Hader just got done watching Jeopardy. Time to lock in. Let's lock in. Kane Carter, you think the Lakers have a chance at Dante since there have been reports he's unhappy with his role? I think there's a chance. I will say, like, teams tend to be reluctant to trade to inter-conference rivals. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I think you can look at there have been recent examples of it happening, but in general, especially if the Lakers are doing better than the Wolves, I don't know that they necessarily want to just give them Dante DiVincenzo. And of course, the Lakers would have to, if it's like Gabe and a first, that doesn't, the first is nice for Minnesota, but that doesn't help them in the now. So I think if Minnesota's making a trade, they're probably looking for a comparable player to Dante DiVincenzo. And unless the Lakers are willing to give up Austin Reeves, which I don't think they'd be willing to do for DiVincenzo, I don't really see a natural fit there. Like, I don't think Minnesota already had Vando. I don't think Vando gets it done. They're not going to take back D'Lo. Gabe isn't good enough. So, Max, I don't think has made the jump yet. Right. So I don't see I think Minnesota would want a like rotation plug-in player and an asset. And I don't think the Lakers could give the asset. They could give the future first, but they can't give the Again, unless they're giving up Dalton, right? But I don't think they're giving up Dalton for Dante DiVincenzo. Leon G. Jovan, if you find yourself without a question, do you mind asking D'Lo what he's doing on the floor to have the best plus minus, or a similar question? I feel he needs a confidence boost, not just criticism. Yeah, I mean, I think JJ's done a really good job of building up D'Lo in I thought like Dalton has the career night and JJ starts to praise him and then immediately shifts it to praising D'Lo and D'Lo setting him up. So I think JJ's done a really good job of that. And yeah, I mean, we haven't talked to D'Lo in a bit because typically we only talk to 3 or 4 players post game, and D'Lo has not quite had a game yet to warrant that. He did talk in one of the recent games, but like in general over the last couple of weeks, it's largely been, it's always LeBron and AD, but then it's been a lot of Austin, it's been a lot of Dalton, a little bit of Christian Coloco. Like there's different. Sometimes we'll throw in like a player we haven't talked to, like Cam came back. That was a guy we really wanted to talk to. So, but yeah, I hear you. Chosen Fit 26, can the Lakers get Cam Johnson for Rui? I think they could, but they probably have to throw in an asset. I don't know if that's a first. I don't know if that's a second. Unclear. Arthur Johnson, can the Lakers, thank you for the super chat. Can the Lakers insist AD wear goggles? It's a matter of time before he gets poked again, and it's their $43 million investment. Ooh, I mean, I hear you, and I agree with you to an extent. I would say just the way that the NBA works, the way that the current sports landscape works, is you just don't really tell a superstar to do something like that. AD does not want to wear goggles. He said that multiple times. Now, he did say that if a eye doctor mandated it, that he would do it and he would comply. So maybe they have to talk to the eye doctor and get them to mandate it. But so far, that has not been the case. And his eyes finally back to looking more normal, and it's not as red and inflamed. But I think if it happens again at that point, 4 times in however long it's been at that point, like you just got to bite the bullet and wear the goggles. Momo2323, where's Sean Davis at? I don't know where he's at, but I will be having him on the show soon. Rob Hader, okay, what starting lineup you want then that has offense and defense? So the starting lineup I'd been leaning toward was Austin, Dalton, Vando, LeBron, and AD. I think among the wing options, it gives you the best offensive wing in Dalton and the best defensive wing in Vando. Problem is we don't know when Vando's coming back, and we don't know how long it's going to take him to ramp up once he's back. So we'll see, but yeah, I'm not holding my breath out on that. Okay, seeing King Carter. Okay. Are you happy where you are in your career? What's the next step for you the next few years? I would say I'm happy with where I'm at, but I am very competitive, very driven, and I have big goals and ambitions. I want to be a true superstar in this industry, and I want to be among the biggest people in the industry. So for me, I've sensed that YouTube and streaming and obviously podcasting, and especially video podcasting, has been where media has been trending for really for like a decade, but especially the last few years, streaming and live streaming and video podcasting is, I think, gone to another level. I think whichever side you fall on, it played a big role in this election, in the way that people consumed the election and information. So for me, I just view it as, I think sports media has been a little bit late to it. Like there are certain figures and certain companies that do it well, but I've been trying to now build this out for going on almost 10 months, and I've been pleased with the results. We just hit 18K last night, so I appreciate you all for subscribing and supporting. But certainly for me, like as a reporter, I could always like it's expanding my network of sourcing, breaking more stories, writing better stories, getting better connections with players, with agents, with coaches, with executives, all that stuff. But with the channel, I want to hit by the end of the season. I want to be at 50K. I'd love to be at the end of at this point next year. I'd love to be at 100K. Those are some of my numerical goals. But continue to actually haven't announced it yet, but I just officially did it today. Signed with Odyssey on the audio side of the podcast. I've not been monetizing the audio side, so Odyssey is going to be helping me monetize the audio side of the podcast and helping me build that out. For now, video side, I'm going to continue to just build it out through YouTube, but continue to do this and just keep growing this community here with all of you. The late night gang after all the Gabes at post Gabe reactions and getting better guests, bigger guests on the show, and eventually getting an editor and having someone to help me manage all this, because right now I'm a one-man band doing it all myself, doing all the editing, thumbnails, captions, headlines, all that stuff, titles. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, I have big goals for this. I want to really take it to the next level. Okay, see, there's been some super chats I've missed, so let's get into it. Brandon Omeng, if JV eventually comes back, I like AR, DK, JV, LeBron, AD. So that was the starting lineup I was just talking about. D'Lo, Rui off the bench would be great and help. Also, Max Christie is better than Gabe Vincent. Max Christie 6'5", plus rebounds, plus defense, also has a great shot. Could not agree more with you, Brandon, on all points. I like that starting lineup. I like D'Lo and Rui off the bench. I think Max is better than Gabe. And yeah, no, I totally agree with you. You can't see this. Who's a player you're currently close with right now? I've talked about it before, but the three players I'd say I'm closest with on the team are Austin, Max, and AD. I would say those are the three guys. Matthew, what's up, Jovan? Just an appreciation post for the coverage you're bringing us. Have a good holiday. You too, Matthew. Thank you. I know you've done a lot of super chats. I really appreciate the support and you always tuning into the live stream. So shout out to you, and I hope you have a great holiday as well. All right, let's see. I'm a little backed up here in the chat, trying to catch up. Sam Davison, Buha is the GOAT. I appreciate you. Rob Hader, Denzel is the GOAT. I agree with you. Okay, seeing a lot of Austin arguing still. Juan Rojas, yo. I'll say it better. What would Vando's role be once he comes back? I'd love to see him starting. I think he'll come off the bench to start, or like once he's back, he'll come off the bench. But eventually, I think he has a chance to start, especially over Cam, if Cam's still starting. But I would suspect he's on like 15, 18 minutes restriction to start, and then that gets ramped up. Abdul Hakim, my bad for spamming this trade idea. I just want to clarify: D'Lo, Gabe, JHS, first round pick, second round pick for Kuz and Jonas, then DFS for Rui, first round pick, and salary dump we talked about. Yeah, I mean, you just would have to. So you are clear, like you'd have to probably do. I guess if you did the Washington trade first, you could do the second trade because you would have already dumped someone. So that would work. And as long as the money works, I don't know if the money works off the top of my head. I assume you investigated that. Yeah, I like both deals. Okay, catching up. Captain Nemo 219, do you get any sense Rob might make a trade sooner rather than wait till deadline or even December 15th? It's certainly possible. I answered a sort of a similar question a little bit earlier. It's possible. I would still say, though, there are certain guys that can't be traded till December 15th, like a Jonas Valanciunas. There's certain guys that can't be traded until January 15th. And typically teams haven't made decisions on which direction they want to go in terms of, are they rebuilding or are they going for it? Which guys they want to keep. Injuries will happen. Like there's so many factors that go into how the trade market looks. And there's always that first trade that kind of sets the market, either aggressively or sets the bar maybe a little bit lower. So I think I would say if I was betting on it, and I'm not, but if I was, I would say post January 1st would be when the Lakers make a trade. But if the right player becomes available for the right price, there's certainly a chance that they do it sooner, especially with, I think, like a guy like Gabe has clearly become expendable. Vando, with him coming back taking so long, like that's probably an expendable player at this point. So yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I would still say likelier that they don't. Sam Davison, Jovan, last night was a gut-wrenching loss. I appreciate your content and the time you spend doing this stuff. Thanks for putting up with our crazy fan ups and downs. Buha, Buha. I appreciate you, man. I would would rather be doing nothing else. So even with daily meditation constantly trolling me, I still appreciate him. Count Zurich, I like this one. Has JJ talked about implementing his 3-4-2 shooting drill with the team? He has not, but I know he's talked about it with Dalton a bit. There's that Spectrum behind the scenes Lakers Spectrum clip. So he's talked a lot about shooting with Dalton, but I think that the group could certainly use it. Grumpy old guy, where are your points coming from off the bench? Well, D'Lo should be one of those guys. And if you move Rui to the bench, then you should have two. Rob Hader, keep going, Jovan. Appreciate the content. I appreciate you. OG Meatwad, incredible name. Every time I laugh, I see it. I love that you're doing this on YouTube for real. Appreciate you. Kevin Cambridge, we appreciate you. Philip Pass, stay hungry, Jovan. I appreciate you all. I really do. Dylan DeVille Brooks, in enemy territory. Jovan, you think the loss yesterday will I'm assuming you're saying haunt them. It could. It very well could. Every game matters in the West. Now it's on the Lakers to go get a win that they probably don't deserve and to even it out. Sam Davison, Jovan puts out the best Lakers content. Fire emoji. Thank you, Sam. I'm loving the comments in the chat. Lazy one, Buha for president. You know what? I got 3 more years till I can run. So we'll see where I'm at in 2027. GM, do you have to have a 4-year degree to be a beat reporter? No, you don't. Media is actually one of the few degrees where like you don't even need a degree period to be a reporter, but you could have a lot of people have like comm degrees or poli-sci or liberal arts or something else. Like I do have a journalism degree, and I know a lot of reporters do have a journalism degree because it's not really like a random career you just kind of fall into. Like you typically want to do it for a while and you aspire to do it. So that's where like I do think there's a bit of a correlation there where a lot of journalists have the journalism background, but you don't need it for sure. OG Meatwad, putting in work solo, best way to do it. That's what I'm trying to do. Keep this your thing. That's what I'm doing. Justine Severo, keep on grinding, Jovan. Greater things ahead. Really appreciate you all again. Thank you. Super chat from Glenn. I appreciate you. I don't see a question, so I'm assuming you might have forgotten to put one unless you're just doing a super chat, and I appreciate it. Craig Osterberg, host your own NBA show on Fox or ESPN. I would love to do something like that. Justine Severo, Jovan Nation. I like that. Kevin Cambridge, any former Laker guys you're close with? I had a good relationship with Malik Monk, Juan Toscano Anderson, Stanley Johnson, Thomas Bryant, Mo Bamba. That's it off the top of my head, but I'd probably have to sit and think a little bit deeper about it. Sam Davison, did he already say if he thinks Gabe gets taken out of the rotation when Rui comes back? I do think Gabe will. Now, I will say I've not really been critical of JJ with the Gabe situation because I felt like in part Lakers have had so many injuries that they've kind of needed Gabe. But I will say this will be my first time really being critical of a rotation decision if he keeps Gabe in over Max, because I think at this point Gabe has been so detrimental that if Cam's out, if Rui's out, and you need that ninth guy, I get it. But if with Rui back now and Christian Koloko in the Jackson spot, I think it's clear Max should be in above Gabe. But we'll see. Pugzilla, does the Japanese viewership and susceptibility to LA's teams affect how the Lakers factor in possibly trading Rui? Is he untradeable then? I would not. I don't think. I think it's potentially a positive or a plus to having Rui, but I don't think that's going to stop them from trading him. Philip Pass, yeah, Rui's off the injury report. He's going to play tomorrow. Another one. Okay, so I see Glenn. I'll go to Glenn first because he didn't get his super chat in originally. Thank you for the super chat again. What do you think of Cody Martin and Nick Richards for Gabe, JHS, some seconds and or heavily protected first? Love the show from Anchorage, Alaska. Shout out to Alaska here. Alaska in the building. I would certainly do it for seconds. Heavily protected first. I guess if you could do like a top 15 protected first, I'd consider it. What's Cody? I want to know what Cody Martin's shooting this year. Let's see. Cody Martin is shooting 43% on 3.4 attempts per game. And then Nick Richards, let's just see how his season is going. 11, 10, 2.5 blocks. You know what? Because I believe in just going for it, I would do a protected first for this. I don't think I would do unprotected, but I would do protected. Matthew, thank you for the super chat. The Lakers had an infusion of capital. What do you think they should invest in around the front office? I get the impression they're behind other teams in the league in scouting, sabermetrics, etc. I would say just an overall beefing up of the front office. I think there should be another probably. There should be someone like maybe because Plinka's GM and vice president of basketball operations. I think they should probably hire a GM, and maybe that's promoting one of the Bus brothers to GM and then bringing in a new assistant GM. But I think that's like Rob in that case should probably be VP of basketball operations, and then there should be a GM under him, but like another big decision maker at the table. I think whether that's above or below him, I would assume it would be below him. I think they have invested. I can say in the analytics department, the analytics department has gotten deeper this year. That there are more analytics people and people working closely with JJ's staff. So I know that's a big part of his strategy and his scouting and whatnot. In general, the scouts, in terms of their scouting pro personnel and stuff, that could be something that they invest in a little bit heavier. So certainly beefing up the front office, though, I'm with you. Ethan Perez, Jovan, with Dalton's performances recently and how the Lakers have been playing, does your idea of the Lakers ceiling raise Western Conference Finals? Yeah, I mean, I've said this team can make the Western Conference Finals with the right path. Like, I think if they get matched up on the Dallas-Minnesota side of the bracket, and that's assuming those teams even eventually get ahead of the Lakers or like are in the higher mix in terms of seeding, but it could be Phoenix, it could be Golden State. Like, I've said that really the only two teams that give me pause if I'm the Lakers are OKC, because I just think they're the best and most complete team in the West. And they also, while the Lakers have been able to expose them on the inside, I think the Hartenstein edition is a major addition. The Caruso edition is a major addition. and they just have so much perimeter firepower, switchability, a lot of really good shooting that to me, OKC is the best team in the West, second best team overall behind Boston. And then Denver still, Jokic has just been an unsolvable problem for the Lakers. They have their own issues with health and the depth, and Jamal Murray has obviously not been back to his previous self. But I would not be surprised if all Jamal Murray needs is to see that purple and gold jersey to drop 30, 35 tomorrow night. Michael Porter Jr. go off for 25 plus, and like that's all they need is to see the Lakers and they're back in postseason form. So I would say outside of OKC and Denver, depending on how the bracket breaks, if the Lakers are on the opposite side of those two teams, I think as constructed they can make the conference finals. Now I do think there are some holes in the roster that are clearly there with perimeter defense and athleticism and the backup center spot. So if you can plug those, get a couple of extra guys, you're cooking with something. Adam Hurley, what do you think of Gabe for Bones Highland, who the Clippers never use? What's his contract? Let's see. I would say in general, I'm not a huge Bones Highland guy. He's only making 4.2. You could probably trade JHS for him. I'd be more open to that, and then keeping the Gabe contract to flip for someone else. Cormac Carl Christie Jr. I guess Max Christie's in the chat. Hey, Jovan, have you noticed D'Lo swinging out legs when he shoots now? Probably why he is shooting less than 30% of threes this year. Yeah, as we were saying a little bit earlier, his form seems a little different, and it's odd. I'm not quite sure what's going on with it. Rob Hader, what's your favorite B-ball podcast, and why isn't the Bill Simmons pod? Bill Simmons pod is probably my favorite all-time podcast. I mean, Bill was I had the privilege of working. I was an intern at Grantland, started a few months into Grantland, and I was there for a year. So I got to intern and get to know Bill. I did his podcast last year in 2023. If you guys want to go back and check that out, May 2023. Bill's been one of the more influential people in terms of just my career of someone I've tried to, wouldn't quite say emulate because we're in two totally different lanes, but certainly someone he's the pod father, right? So certainly I've learned a lot just listening to him and how he is in interviews and all that stuff. Low Post, RIP, I hope it comes back in a different form. Maybe it'll be like the Zach Lowe podcast, the Zach Lowe show, whatever. I would say Hoop Collective with Brian Windhorst. Old Man and the Three when it was a thing. Mind the Game. Those are, but then some Lakers content for sure. I mean, LFR, Laker Film Room with Pete and Darius. Hoops Tonight with Jason Timpf. That's NBA more. And Lakers Exceptionalism. So I could go on and on, but those are some of the big ones I listen to. Craig Osterberg, will Oliveri come up soon? So Quincy Oliveri actually just sprained his ankle. I feel like people haven't really been, or I haven't seen people talk about it. But so I don't know how long he's out. I don't think it's too serious, but I'd guess he's out probably a couple of weeks or so. I like this one. Dark Galaxy, if healthy, 2019-20 or 2020-2021. I would still pick the 2020 team. I know the 2021 team had they were better offensively. I don't think they were as good defensively. I also think AD was better in 2020. LeBron was kind of similar. So I would say 2020. But I think it's the 2021 team. I think if they had stayed healthy, would have beaten Phoenix and would have had a really good shot to make the finals. And then Giannis was playing at an insane level at that point, but they would have had a chance to win it all. Count Zurich, do you believe in Phil Jackson's 40-20 rule for championship aspiring teams? Does that change with a big trade at the deadline? Yeah, I agree with that. So that's essentially you want to be 40-20 at the 60 game mark or so, 4-2 basically every 6 games. So Lakers are pretty much there. Probably have to win, I guess, another one to kind of keep pace with that. But I mean, I think with a trade, you obviously have to factor in there's going to be some adjustment period, and so that resets things a little bit. But I don't think a trade should change your expectations. KV, are there a lot of things said off the record that if the public knew would ruin teams? Yes. Yes, I will leave it at that. I won't get any more into it. Kevin Cambridge, when did you decide you wanted to become a sports journalist? Going from junior year to senior year of high school, I originally wanted to be a GM, but at that time I'm 16 and I don't even know like what it entails to become a GM. So I think at that point I'd always been like really good at writing. Like I won awards in middle school and I'd always gotten like A's in school, but you're writing book reports and papers and like whatever. Like I didn't really care. So I had a friend who was on the journalism staff and he was like, hey, you should join the class and for senior year and we could find a way to let you write about the NBA. So I was able to like once a month do a NBA column or story or whatever. And I just fell in love with it. So then went to USC, studied journalism there, and the rest is history. Dylan Villain Brooks is really playing tomorrow. Yes. Step back, fam. If the Lakers brought back Malik Monk, would that help the Lakers? Yeah, I mean, I think he'd be a really good 6th man for them. I know I'm a little bit behind in the chat. I'm trying to catch up. Zen, you think Austin's role as a PG does complement the team well? I would regard him as a pure shooter like DK more than someone who runs the offense. Well, I would say LeBron has actually been running the offense more. It's been more of a shift into LeBron running it, and Austin's usage has dipped a little bit. I do think Austin is a better scorer than playmaker, but I think the playmaking has gotten better. It's still not, I would still put it LeBron, D'Lo, Austin in terms of ranking the playmakers, but I think the gap between Austin and D'Lo has shrunk compared to where it was, say, like a year ago at this point. So I think the Lakers can get away with it. Like, I think I think he's fine as good as a primary ball handler. As your primary playmaker, I think you could still do better, and that's where I think LeBron and D'Lo have value. I mean, of course, LeBron's LeBron, but like I'm saying in comparison with the way they're running the offense, like those guys are the best passers and primary playmakers in that regard. Austin to me is a better shot creator than playmaker, but he also has the playmaking chops. It is something he's gotten better at, and I think he's adequate enough to run an offense and bring the ball up and like set things up. It's just he's not. I would say D'Lo and LeBron are clearly better passers. So there's a little bit of a distinction there. My mom getting involved now. Who is Daily M? Why is he trolling my boy? It's all good. I can handle myself, but I appreciate you. Puppy Chow 302. You're Rob Pelinka for a day. It's the day before the trade deadline. Genie wants you to save the picks. AD LeBron wants to make a run and demands you trade the picks. What do? I trade the picks. I've been saying that. I think the Lakers should trade the picks. That's what I would do. Let's see. You can't see this. Thank you for the super chat. Do you think Rob is monitoring the LaMelo Ball situation? And do you think it's a possibility for a trade with the Hornets? Love you, JB. Love you too. And I would say I'm sure he's monitoring it. I don't think they have quite enough now. And I've said this before in a recent stream. I think the one argument, if you're the Lakers, and of course some of this stuff isn't legal, but if you have the inside intel that there's a future star that is going to become available that could be realistic for you to attain, that's the one justification, in my opinion, to not trading the 2 picks and to holding them on, or holding on to them. So if they don't trade the 2 picks and end up trading for a star a year from now, 2 years from now, retroactively, I will view the decision differently. But if they just don't trade for anyone at this deadline, don't use the picks. And then 2-3 years from now, still haven't acquired that star, just hoarding the picks or just, using them normally, that's where I'd have more of an issue. So I think the 2024 or 2025 deadline, we can view it in the present and sort of like what they do to try and maximize this current window. But it could also be a piece that there's like the 2-3 years down the road of reviewing, like, okay, so they didn't make a move, they didn't use the picks. Well, why not? Did they know something potentially? Were they hoarding it for star X becomes available? Potentially it is LaMelo. And because LaMelo is going to go from, if LaMelo becomes available, he's not going to cost 2 first-round picks. He's going to cost 4 or 5, right? So that's just the going rate for all-star, like high-level guys. So, yeah. Okay. A lot of Austin back and forth. I will say Rob Hader on Bill. Not a lot of positive Lakers talk. So for Laker fans, I understand if you don't want to listen just because he likes to antagonize Laker fans. Okay. Glenn mismatch with Chris Vernon. I know. So I know I'm a bit behind. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing any questions. Leon G. So Jonas is not available until December 15th, just so people are aware. Yes, that's what people have to remember. Daly is really driving the conversation in the chat. But look, I want, we're all a family here. Let's all, everyone, let's do some meditation. Let's all chill and let's all get along. Mamadou, I hope that's how you say it. Thank you for the super chat. If they don't win against Denver tomorrow, we'll know they're not serious at this point. It should be personal. I've said, like, so I don't want to say they're not, I don't know if I'd agree they're not serious. I think this is a serious team and a more serious team than the last 2 years, but I think they're like, it should be personal. And this is, I would say, like, if they get blown out by Denver and it's like a no-show, I might agree with you. I don't like to make these like sweeping claims about a team after one game in either direction. So I still think they've had serious stretches this season. So I don't want to say they're completely unserious, but like, I think it should be personal. I think this is a matchup that they should have circled on the calendar, all 4 Denver games, and they should try and beat this team. Like this is, I think, similar to Sacramento. There's a psychological element here. It's hung over them, and they did beat them finally in the playoffs last year in one of the games, and they had 2 games go down to the wire where Jamal Murray hit game-winning shots. But like, this is a team that has talked trash. They've made it clear they don't fear the Lakers, and they play their best against the Lakers. And like, I think it's time for LA to do something about it. And all you can do is really execute, play hard. But yeah. Andrew F., have you heard anything about a potential Levine deal? I have not. Cormac Carl Christie Jr., what are your thoughts on Lakers using more drop coverage and zone rather than switching? I think it's very matchup dependent. I think it's very much, it's based on the opponent. It's based on the lineup that you have out there. So I don't think there's like a right way to do it necessarily. I think, again, it depends. There's a lot of context that goes into this answer, but I'm a little bit more on the switching side. But again, if you take out Gabe and really your defensive liabilities are like, I mean, Dalton's going to play a certain amount, D'Lo's going to play a certain amount, but like if you can take out Gabe and play just a bigger rotation at that point, because D'Lo is like 6'4", so at that point everyone in your rotation is 6'4" and above. And really taking D'Lo out, everyone's like 6'6" and above. About, Austin's 6'5" ish, or like just under 6'6". But like, okay, so not 7 of your 9 guys are 6'6" and above, right? with Dalton being 6'6", 6'7", Max is 6'6". So like I just like the collective size there a little bit more. They're still not as big as some of the biggest teams like a Denver or an Orlando or some of those teams. But I would say playing with more size and switching a little bit more, but also being adaptable. Like I think that's the biggest thing. Britain, Jovan, with more and more roster turnover each year, it's obviously hard to know who will be available, but what potential big name could you realistically see next in purple and gold post-LeBron? I would say, depending on how things go, Anthony Edwards or Luka. Don't aggregate that, but yeah, longer term. We're talking late 2020s. Dark Galaxy, the problem with drop coverage is everyone hits threes against Lakers. Yeah, my problem with drop coverage with the Lakers is they don't have the good enough point of attack perimeter guys. You have to have really good point of attack perimeter guys who are going to chase from behind and rear view contest and not give up those threes. So that's my biggest issue with drop. I think it makes sense in certain matchups, but Lakers have been dating back to Ham. I think it's gotten better under JJ, but they've struggled to close out at the 3-point line and not foul. So I really did not anticipate Austin becoming this like polarizing figure in the chat. There's a lot of, okay. I think I'm caught up finally. Ashwin, is Jokic going to play tomorrow? Do we know yet? We do. To my knowledge, we don't know yet. I'm going to check the injury report right now. I would assume he does play though. So for Nuggets, Mavericks, he is questionable, which is the game that was last night. So I forgot. I don't think he played last night. I could be wrong. Wait, no, sorry. That's the game tonight. Oh, so they have a back-to-back. It looks like, is Jokic playing? I think Jokic is playing. So yeah, I think he'll be back. Jovan, do any basketball players watch your podcast? I don't know. I think maybe there was one player who I will not name who did drop a yo-yo. So I think some of them tune in. Matthew, you know who would be a perfect for the Lakers and drop coverage? Miles Turner. Yeah, that's the best. Like that's the best in terms of the bigs that I've seen linked to the Lakers. And I don't even think Miles Turner is realistic, but Ashy, Larry Boy, Pepsi or Coke? Coke, but specifically Diet Coke because I try to avoid the sugar. I actually got a Diet Coke here. I was considering doing beer, but no beer tonight. You can't see this. Need a chat moderator. Eventually, yeah. I'm not really in position to. I'm trying to save the finances in terms of like paying people to do the editing and all that stuff. I want to build this out more first and then go from there. Ashy Larry Boy. Whew, good answer. Okay, I'll keep the live stream up. I appreciate that. Glad I passed the test. Obito Cotito. Hope I said that right. Who's your ideal fit with AD in the post-LeBron era? I mean, I just mentioned Ant and Luka. I think either one of those would be a great fit. I think AD needs like Luka is maybe the most similar player to LeBron in the league from like a capability standpoint. Obviously, much different athletically, and I think Luka's a little bit more heliocentric than LeBron is, or like peak LeBron. But I think Luka and AD would be like, imagine defending a Luka AD pick and roll. OG Meatwad, get a Discord mod to do it for free. LMAO. Yeah, maybe I should. Leon G, insert chat moderator. That's maybe I'll do it. OG Meatwad, some fanboy will do it for free. I got to find someone, but I work weird hours, and I like having control of it, but maybe it's time to relinquish some control. Okay. Isaac Jacobson, Jovan, I'll do it for $7, price of 2 tall boys. I will consider that. This is a fun one. Chris, the art director, go back in time. What happens to the Lakers if we never trade for Westbrook? Well, so I think the Lakers, like, they were going to do the Buddy Hield deal. Remember, they were going to get, I forgot the exact, it was pretty much Buddy Hield for Kuz. They were going to keep KCP. Let me go back and see what the exact package was. But they were going to make a big move that summer regardless. So they were going to send Trez and Kuzma for Buddy Hield, and they would have kept KCP. So you would have had LeBron, 80, KCP, Buddy Hield, and then Marcus Sol was going to retire. You traded Trez. Like the depth still would have been a bit shaky. I don't know who that fifth starter would have necessarily been, but I think they would have been better than the 2021-22 team. That's for sure. And I think they bounced back to being, they still could have, if you kept a lot of that 2020, 2021 team together, like they're still probably good that next year. It's just basically swapping, like Trez was out of the rotation at that point. So it's swapping Hield in for Kuzma. I think they still would have been much better than with Russ. Wayne, Jovan, if you were the GM, who do you trade for and who do you trade? I would trade for, I would prioritize adding a wing. I've said that before. I think whether it's Cam Johnson, Jeremy Grant, Bruce Brown, now Dante DiVincenzo, like there's different size wings. There's smaller wings, there's bigger wings. I think that a two-way wing who is not a defensive liability and also a positive contributor offensively, that to me is the biggest need on this roster, because too many of the Lakers wings, go down the list, Dalton, Max, Gabe, I consider, like, to me, the point guards on the team are Austin and D'Lo, in terms of like nominally the position they're playing. So, and it's typically one of those guys is like the point guard lead ball handler. Of course, LeBron is, but LeBron defensively is playing more like 4. So I would say Gabe, Max, Cam, Dalton, Rui, Vando, all those guys skew way more toward one side of the floor. And I don't even know if, like, how many of those guys are even like non-liabilities on one side of the floor. Like Gabe has been an offensive liability. Max has had a good offensive game, but like for the most part, it's been a liability. Vando has historically been a liability. Cam has been historically a liability, although he's been shooting the ball better recently. Rui has good defensive moments, but the defense can kind of come and go. Dalton's been a defensive liability. So it's like those guys, they just have so many one-way players. That's what I continue to say, that I think they need to find a way to restructure the rotation into having more two-way guys and guys that are can get a defensive stop and hit it open 3 and like just be positive contributors on both sides of the ball. So yeah, that would be it. And then I guess if you can swing a better backup center, I would do that as well. Ideally, you do both. Britton, how did you become a Lakers fan? Well, I grew up in LA. I was here. One of my best friends growing up was a big basketball fan, big Lakers fan, and he got me into the Lakers. And I remember 2001 was my first year watching like start to finish. So the second championship year, and grew up more a Shaq fan than Kobe fan. Shaq's my all-time favorite player. As you guys can see, or behind me, I have the Shaq Magic figure, like on the Magic. OG Meatwad, this is awesome. YouTube is goated. So are you, Jovan. Thank you. Okay. Rob Hader, damn, McCain at 30 tonight, bro. Might be the rookie of the year. Yeah, I think McCain's the rookie of the year for now. Sam Davison, a two-way high motor athletic wing. That's exactly it. John Matthew, Jovan, do you think they messed up the last play last night? So they were trying to get LeBron sealed, and they weren't able to find him. So ideally, like you don't have AD taking a jumper in that. I know AD's jumper's been better, but that's not like your ideal shot at the end. So I think they had a good process. The result obviously wasn't what you wanted, but I think there probably needs to be another built-in counter there to like if LeBron can't seal his man or they can't find LeBron in that scenario, I don't think AD taking a jumper is what you want. So I guess in that sense, I will say they messed it up. I understand what they were going for, but yeah. Chris, the art director, my bad, Jovan, I just subscribed. I appreciate you. If you guys are watching right now and you have not subscribed and you consistently watch, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. OG Meatwad, the Westbrook trade gave us Reeves and Dalton. Thank you, Westbrook, for real. Well, I mean, Reeves was an undrafted guy, and Dalton was from the AD trade, so that's not quite true. Do I have another super chat? Okay. Matthew, Jovan, I maintain prime Shaq would obliterate everyone in the league today. People who didn't watch him live have no idea how devastating he was. Yeah, like my favorite thing about prime Shaq is, well, one, it's like we've never seen someone with that frame move that way, right? Like he was, I mean, technically, like he was listed at like 30 pounds heavier than Jokic when I would say looking at their frames, he's got a good 60, 70 pounds on Jokic. Like they're not even the same. And he was also a couple inches bigger. But my favorite thing about Prime Shaq was he could just the drop step into dunking on you. Like we rarely see that play anymore. Dwight Howard did it a bit. I think Embiid could do it against like smaller guys, but Shaq would do it on Dikembe Mutombo, a multi-time defensive player of the year. He would do it on Ben Wallace. Obviously, Ben Wallace had a good 2004 finals against him, but Shaq still put up numbers in that series and had some good games. But he could do it against the biggest and baddest big men defenders. Arvydas Sabonis was huge, 7'3", 300 pounds. Didn't matter. Shaq would destroy him. David Robinson. Early Shaq had some trouble with Hakeem, but I think Lakers Shaq versus Hakeem would have been interesting to see how that went, just because he somehow maintained this level of like kind of similar to LeBron of LeBron moving like LeBron moved like prime Westbrook and Derrick Rose, except he was 6'9" and another 40, 50 pounds on those guys. Shaq moved like some of these, smaller bigs, but he was just as big, if not bigger, height-wise, and then had a good 50, 60, 70 pounds on them, and it just didn't make sense. And he was just an athletic freak. So yeah, prime Shaq, like the pure dominance. I grew up a big kid, so I could kind of relate to not saying that, but like just I liked like just the bigger guy dominating. Like I like Donkey Kong. Like I don't know. Sometimes I like the Goliath. Ashwin just subscribed. Appreciate the content. Thank you. I appreciate you. If you guys just subscribed, let me know in the chat. BC Shaq would score at will today. He would just dominate. Pick and roll defense would be tough for him, especially with the way teams shoot threes. But offense, I mean, he would be just killing people. People don't understand how dominant Shaq was. It was unreal. Leon G. As Zen is saying, this is my opinion on Austin. I mean, in this league, you can't find someone who will get paid 12 plus million and average 18 plus. Yep, I agree. Britain, favorite NBA moment. Ooh, that's a really good one. I would say the Ray Allen shot for Miami Spurs was up there of just like, holy shit, what just happened? It seemed like the series was going one way, and then Ray Allen just saved the series. He like LeBron was about to drop to 1-2 in Miami in the finals and 1-3 in the finals overall. So I don't want to say like save LeBron's career because that's an overstatement, but certainly had a big impact in the way LeBron's finals record swung. I would say the Derek Fisher shot, even though the Lakers didn't win the title. Robert Horry shot, for Kobe 81, Game 7 NBA Finals, Lakers Celtics, Game 7 Warriors Cavs, one of the all time games. Those would be some of the ones that stand out. Kobe's final game, LeBron breaking the scoring record. Those are some of my favorite moments. Schmidtke, I think I butchered your name again. I'm sorry. My all-time starting five: LeBron, MJ, Kobe, Duncan, Shaq. Beat that. Good luck. Yeah, that's as tough as it gets because you put LeBron at the 1. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you beat that lineup. BC, yeah, I'm 6'4" and feel the same. Shout out to the tall boys in the chat. Leon G, pick and roll is cute, but if you fouled out, how's that helping you? Or you giving Shaq 100% rim attempts? Well, I'm just saying, like, people are gonna. I think so offensively, I think Shaq would be, especially with the spacing, because that was part of it. Like, part of the thing too was back then the spacing was so much worse, where you often had a Horace Grant, AC Green, Robert Horry, whoever was the other guy, like on the dunker spot on the other side of the floor. Like you'd sometimes have like 3 or 4 guys within the 3-point arc. So with improved spacing, Shaq I think would be even better offensively with better spacing, better post, and better shooters around you. Like it's going to be a tough decision for a defense. All I was saying was with pick and roll is teams are going to call out, like if they're playing Golden State, it's going to be, okay, who's Shaq guarding? Bring that guy into the pick and roll, and then that Steph or whoever, if Shaq's probably in a drop, I would assume, if he's coming out, you could blow by him, or if he's in a drop, you're just going to get a bunch of threes because Shaq, one of the few flaws with him, well, free throws, of course, but I think just lateral mobility defensively wasn't always there. So, Big Baby Sports, I've been subscribing to you for a while. Keep doing great things. Very inspirational. Appreciate you, Big Baby. And again, I've said it before, but check out Big Baby's channel. Britain, just subscribe. Love the channel so far. Thank you. Appreciate you. Justine Severo subscribed 9 months ago. Thank you. That's, you're almost there from the beginning. You might have been. Rob Earth, Trevor, Jovan, and Sliwa are the current big 3 Lakers reporters. I appreciate that. Spring Magic, Jovan, if you haven't talked about this already, how much could some guys we already have realistically improve? Cam, Hayes, Coloco, is there any chance we get a second big we need that way? So Cam, before I get started, I'm just going to say quickly for everyone in the chat, I'm going to go 2 hours, so I'm going to go about 20 more minutes. So if you want, get your questions in, get your super chats in, and I will answer them over the next 20 minutes. As far as those 3, with Cam, I think Cam, it's really it's being more disciplined defensively, which I think he's done a better job of. It's also being more disciplined offensively, which I also think he's done a better job of in terms of reading closeouts, shot pass decision making, not being predetermined in your closeout reads. And I think Cam has accepted his role as a more low usage guy. And so I think Cam has played fairly well. I still think he's an relatively offensive limited guy, especially as a catch and shoot guy, but hit a couple threes last night against Orlando. And I think had has just been playing really well, especially defensively. So Cam, I think he's kind of close to, I don't want to say finished product, but he's probably close to what I think he could get a little bit better defensively. He can get better offensively in terms of, again, attacking closeouts and spotting up and shooting. With Hayes, it's being a better rim protector, not fouling as much, both offensively and defensively. Defensively, he tends to lean forward. Now I'm giving you guys visuals here, but he doesn't tend to go straight up defensively. He tends to that's the verticality that Roy Hibbert popularized of you jump up, you keep your arms straight, and it's not a foul even if you make contact. But if you lean forward, that's where then you will get the foul called, and that is what often happens with Jackson. So I think he could be better at that. He could be better at leveraging his athleticism. He's another guy. The Lakers have multiple of these guys. I would say Jackson, Dalton, and Rui are all three athletic players who, for whatever reason, leverage their athleticism much better offensively than defensively. Jackson, I think, does it well with his lateral quickness, switching on to smaller players and playing on the perimeter. But in terms of he's one of the best finishers from a catching lobs, dunking on people, one of the best vertical threats in the league. I would say he could catch almost anything, but it just doesn't translate to the shot blocking and the rim protection defensively. Similar stuff with Dalton. I talked about it with Sam Vecini. Excuse me. If you guys haven't seen it yet, we do a deep dive on 40 plus minutes on Dalton. He brings up the point that Dalton's a good vertical threat in terms of his athleticism, but he's not great laterally. He has tight hips. So that's part of why Dalton isn't able to create as much separation offensively, but also defensively, why he could be blown by. And then Rui, I think, has some of that similar stuff, just doesn't have the same lateral quickness, but is a big, strong, athletic forward offensively. And again, it just doesn't feel like it translates as much defensively. So that's kind of an interesting thing with several guys on the roster. But Jackson, I think it's the fouling, setting, moving screens. Offensively, I think he's gotten better. The finishing is still there, but he's gotten better as a DHO guy, setting screens, slipping, handoffs. So I think Jackson's getting kind of close to being who he is. Koloko, I think, has improved a lot just in a short amount of time. I think becoming a pick and pop big, becoming better as a finisher, better as a rim protector, better as a rebounder. He has probably several areas he can grow because he's so young and raw. But I think if I had to bet on one of them, the guy I think who has the most room to grow is Koloko. But yeah, I think Koloko with the right seasoning can be the best backup big among the three by the end of the season. But I think the Lakers will still probably go try and find someone. BC, Tall Peeps, Fist. Prolific 5, Kobe Game 4 versus Phoenix was awesome at the time. Yeah. Matthew, my favorite moment, tied between Fisher shot and Kobe's game winner against Phoenix. All good points. Ryan Rich, I've talked about this before. What do you think about Bronny and him only playing home G League games instead of all of them? I think he should play in all of them, or at least I think there is value in Bronny being with the official team. I think him being on road trips, and I also think it's good for LeBron, and there's kind of that's an ancillary benefit. But I don't think he because of the time he missed due to his heart situation and just him still being young and developing, I think he needs as much reps as he can get. I get if they want to say there's a security element to it and whatnot, but you can't. There are ways to work around that with private travel or extra security with him that I don't think are an issue financially necessarily. So I I don't fully buy that, and I don't fully agree with it. But so I think I would say of all the things that have happened with Bronny so far, this is the thing I disagree with the most in terms of how the Lakers are handling it, / like how him and his team are handling it. And I don't quite know who is the person pulling the strings with this particular scenario, but I think from a development perspective, it is very rare for a player to have this arrangement. And I know he's famous. I know obviously because of who his dad is, there's an extra threat level or security level, whatever. But I think he, like, especially they just played in San Diego. He should have been available for that game. And that's a 2-hour drive from LA. You can't see this. Your all-time starting five is, well, it depends if you like. If you go positionless, I would probably agree with the one earlier that was LeBron, MJ, Kobe, Duncan, Shaq. If we're trying to go positionally, I would say Steph, MJ, LeBron, Duncan, Shaq, or like Duncan, Kareem. I think Kareem's the best center of all time, but Shaq's my favorite player, so I'll pick Shaq. It's because it's my starting five. I can pick whoever I want, but if I'm going like best positionally, I would say, I mean, then you probably go Magic, MJ, LeBron, Duncan, Kareem. But in terms of like a lineup I'd really like to see and like some of my favorite guys at each position, I'd probably go Steph, MJ, LeBron, Duncan, Shaq. Rob Hader. Damn, Jovan, thank you. Let's get to 3 hours. We will go 3 hours at some point. I'm going to stick with 2 for now. Lakers in 7. Does Max play over Gabe with Rui back, or what happens with that? I think so. That's what I've been saying. Max has been playing more than Gabe since he returned to the rotation, and part of that was because Cam missed a couple games. Part of that's because Rui missed a few games, so they have needed more size on the perimeter. But Max has been playing better than Gabe, and I think he should be playing more than him. And if he doesn't, I will come on here and I will criticize JJ. BC, I would like Claxton or Kessler. I would love either one of those. Either one would be a great fit. Let's see. Another super chat from Albert. Thank you, Albert. I feel like if our depth and contributions off the bench don't improve, then we're ultimately doomed. You're not wrong. I would say this is where Vando coming back would help a lot. And if you flip the bench into, if you go with the Vando Dalton starting group alongside AR, LeBron, and AD, and now you have D'Lo and Rui coming off the bench with, say, Jackson / Christian, if Christian comes back at some point, and then like Max as the 9th guy or Cam as the 9th guy. I like that group a lot more than the current group, and that's with Vando coming back and then reshuffling the starting lineup. But I think they need Vando, and they also probably need to make a trade. Take a water break, 1 sec. Okay. Alvin White Jr., realistically, when is the earliest the Lakers make a move? Realistically, I would say around December 15th is probably the earliest, because there will be guys that become available, like a Jonas Valanciunas. But I think it's going to probably bleed into mid-January, in between mid-January and the February 6th trade deadline. Dak Cooley, what about the possibility that the G League home games give Bronny a chance to develop his game, and the away games with the Lakers team give him the chance to continue to learn from the NBA? You said 1/2. There's an argument that it's telling the league they take care of their superstars, as well as letting LeBron travel with his son, help him recruit future superstars. I mean, I hear that. I would just say then the Lakers should probably just come out and say that, right? Because I think they've been framing this like JJ has called Bronny patient zero in terms of their development. And like they've really been talking up the player development and they want to be one of the best player development, programs in the league. And I hear what you're saying. I would just say from what's best for Bronny, I think it's just rep. Like, and even when they talk about other guys, it's often, well, this player just needs reps. They need reps in the G League. They need minutes. And like, that's how players grow is by playing and getting those reps and getting that experience and getting that confidence. And I would just, I think Bronny needs that because he has missed a lot of basketball and wasn't able to play a full season last year because of a very serious situation. So I think for him to develop into the player that I think he can ultimately become, he's going to need to get those reps and get that experience, and only playing in half of the G League games because he's not playing. It'd be one thing if he was playing for the Lakers, right? If he was like the 9th or 10th guy and he was getting even like 5, 8, 10 minutes a night, but he's only playing in blowouts. And so, and I said when I was making my earlier point with Bronny, there is an argument that like there is value with him traveling on the road, getting to see, getting to be in those environments, getting to see what it's like to be on a road trip and the camaraderie and like all that stuff is important. But there's no, at least to my knowledge, no other player in the league right now who has this arrangement of only playing in home G League games and not playing on the road. And it's hard not to look at that as like some type of preferential treatment for him. And if you want to, and if you are going to do that, then just own it and say, yes, we're giving Bronny preferential treatment. It's because he's LeBron's son or because LeBron wants this. Like, that's fine. Just be a little bit more transparent with it than trying to frame it as like, well, we're taking the development seriously, except for in this scenario, we're making this exception here when it's like, you can't really have it both ways, in my opinion. So it seems like, so I will say, I didn't know what a timeout was. I did put daily meditation in a timeout. Looks like Andrew F is here as daily meditation 2.0. Look, I just want people to get along in the chat. That's all. We can disagree on Austin, but let's just keep it peaceful. Mr. T, the worst part is that this preferential treatment doesn't even benefit him. That's the other thing, which I would agree with. Also, by the way, for those who have been on here this whole time now, I'm retesting out this mic. I don't know if you remember it. This is from episode 50. I had tested out this mic. I had messed with the gain settings a little bit too much, and it was a little too high. I figured that out. So I want to know, do you guys like this mic? Do you notice a difference? It's a little bit more of like a radio broadcast mic than the other one. It's also a little bit more sensitive than the other one. But for those who care or notice a difference, I'd love to know if you like this one better with my voice. I think this one's a little brighter. I think it balances my voice a little bit more. But I have it for a month before I have to return it if I do. Rob Hader said Mike sounds good. So, you know what? Rob Hader, you are, I trust you. Glenn Penamora, favorite basketball movie of all time, Coach Carter for the win. Coach Carter is up there. I would say White Man Can't Jump is probably my favorite all-time basketball movie. He Got Game is up there. Like Mike, because I was like 10 when it came out. So like there's just like a nostalgic element to it that I'll always appreciate. Of course, again, Coach Carter, Love and Basketball, Space Jam, another nostalgic thing. I was a huge Space Jam fan growing up. So I would say those are my favorite, but it's probably between He Got Game and White Man Can Jump. Let me know what you guys in the chat. What's your favorite all-time basketball movie? OG Meatwad, like Mike for me. BC, Space Jam, OG Meatwad, Space Jam, duh. Leon G, yeah, the mic is good enough that it's not noticeable, if that makes sense. I'm not quite like you mean the difference between the last one and this one? What do you mean by it's not noticeable? Like you can't see it on the screen, or like visually or audio wise, it's just it blends in with my voice. I'd love to know what you mean by that. Rob Hader, he got game is so good. Bloodhound, Thunderstruck. I tried Thunderstruck. It's probably a generational thing. Jimmy, Blue Chips. I actually haven't seen Blue Chips. I need to watch it. I need to watch it. Matthew, he got game. Albert, Airbud. Hey, shout out Airbud. That was a good one. That was a good one. Schmidt K. Lakers vs. Blazers game 7. Rewatch that this year. Classic. Yes. Classic. Rob Earth. Hi, Jovan. If you are Pelinka, would you pair Ayton with AD? If I could get Ayton without giving up a first, I would be interested in it. I don't know if I would trust him enough to give up a first. I would like Ayton with AD in theory. If you get like Phoenix 2021 Ayton, just the problem is we haven't seen it like that guy since then. Chris, the art director, your mic makes you sound like the perfect ASMR. Smiley emoji. You know what? I appreciate that. Matthew, Jovan, don't forget about Teen Wolf. I actually haven't seen Teen Wolf either, so I got to watch Teen Wolf and Blue Chips. We got 2 people really going off on AR. Akeem, Coach Carter, Leon G, as in audio blends well, and I don't really think about the audio quality, which makes it not distract from the product. Your beautiful face. Wow. Thank you. Dark Galaxy, yeah, Ayton makes $34 million. It gets tough to match the salary. Some of these questions I try to like just answer at face value and not get it like, but more so in theory. But yeah, I mean, Ayton's tough to match. You can't see this. Hopefully at some point I can become a channel member. Stop the AR-15 slander. We love you, JB. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I let me know in the chat if you guys want me to start a membership program, and maybe I do some private chats for members. Johnny says he's suing me for lying. I'm not quite sure what I lied about. If you keep talking about AR, I mean, he was the 3rd best player in the Denver series. I don't really know what I'm lying about. Please enlighten me. Who is the 3rd best Laker in the Denver series in the first round? Schmidt K, I'm out. Great show as always. Buha, go Lake Show. Appreciate you. Appreciate you rocking with us for almost 2 hours. Gilbert Lopez, good catch here. Nobody shouted out Above the Rim. Above the Rim is a classic. Matthew, Jovan, can you get Keith Smith on the show? He's a brilliant cap guru. I've never met Keith, but we do follow each other, so that's a good, but probably closer to the trade deadline or like January, we can talk trade stuff. J Palm, what do you think of Jakob Poeltl now? Jovan, he's playing like a top 8 center. He is having a good season, and I'd be interested to see what his rim protection numbers are. I'm gonna pull it up. Well, he's averaging 17 and 12, 1.3 blocks, and then I'll pull up his defensive stats. Let's see. Sorry, one second. I'm pulling up Jakob Poeltl's rim protection. Jakob Poeltl is allowing 66.7% at the rim, which is that's bad. So yeah, I mean, I like Jakob Poeltl. I don't like the contract, and you probably have to give up D'Lo or Gabe and Max or something. Like I I just think he's to me he's a 20 to 25 minute a night backup on this team. So I'm lukewarm. If you don't give up a first, I like there's a lot of guys, if you don't have to give up a first, I like it, but Isaac Jacobson, you should go on Jason's show. Y'all always have good combos. I'd love to. Last year I went on, we had a deal. I had a deal with the volume. So I went on probably like 7, 8, 9 times last season. I need to reach out to him, and I need to have him on my show. And I also need to go on his show. Matthew, he has no outside shot. We need a center that can shoot from 3 like Miles Turner. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing with Jakob Poeltl. Again, as a backup, I don't mind him, but he's making a lot, and it's probably going to cost the first. Akeem, he's doing consistent. Tali Khalifa. Jovan, who are your favorite players of all time? My favorite player of all time is Shaq. I would say LeBron is probably my second favorite. My top 3 are probably Shaq, LeBron, and Chris Paul. It is weird, like, covering LeBron, just because then I don't want to be like, it's just weird covering a player that you grew up rooting for, or like, I had LeBron shoes in middle school and stuff. So that's kind of weird. Actually, let me take that back. Jokic is in there because I'm half Serbian. So I would say Shaq, LeBron, and Jokic are probably my 3 favorite. But I like, if you can't tell, I tend toward bigger players, and I like good passers. Even Shaq was a good passer for like his size and for the center position, but I like selfless guys. I've never been a big like gunner, me first type player. And modern game, I like Luka. I like Steph. I like KD. Like I like great players. I mean, there's random role players throughout NBA history that I like too. But of course, I like quality. I like great stars. OG Meatwad, I'd say Dalton is not as good a defender as Rui yet, but with some time he could get better. I would say there's a decent gap between him and Rui, and Rui's just bigger. But I think Dalton can certainly get better defensively. Daddy Menendez just gotten here. I don't know if you covered it already, but is it true that Valanciunas is the number 1 target over Robert Williams? I haven't heard it that definitively. I know he's been linked to the Lakers more than Robert Williams. I think the Lakers' hesitation is Robert Williams' injury history. And again, looking at Vando, Kendrick Nunn, Gabe Vincent, Christian Wood, like they've not had great luck with injury-prone guys over the last few years, or guys who are banged up. So I think that's a concern for them. But with Valanciunas, there's the defensive side and the defensive concerns. So I think Robert Williams is a better fit. It's just a matter of, can he stay healthy? Prolific 5, Pirtle's rim protection has fallen off badly. That's the thing. I thought the Lakers really exposed that in both games. Okay, I'm just past the 2-hour mark, so I'm going to go answer a few more. I'm not... Okay. Robert Noriega, why is the front office so reluctant to make a move? Braun still cooking, AD having an MVP season, and JJ is looking like a young coaching prodigy. Forget the future. We need to strike now. I couldn't agree with you more, Robert. That's my how I feel about things. What I will say, I think we talked about the Russ trade earlier, and I think there's been some of the fallout from that has been the Lakers being a bit more cautious with how they use their picks and not wanting to make another mistake like that. So OG Meatwad, YouTube is better than cable companies. I agree with you. Financially, not yet, but hopefully soon. Shanil Patel, Jovan, what do you think the Pelicans do? It's an expensive roster, and the injuries have probably made their season a waste. Any of the players that might be on the trading block. So I was actually talking about this with a scout recently, and they were saying they don't see New Orleans giving up on Trey Murphy or Herb Jones. If anything, it's Ingram and CJ McCollum, which a lot of teams just don't really want those two guys. But they just invested a lot in DeJounte, so they probably keep him. And then Zion, he's their franchise guy, and I think if they do trade him, I don't think the Lakers have enough with the 2 firsts. So I'm not quite sure. But I think they are a candidate to try and blow it up or make a big move. It's just probably CJ or Brandon, not necessarily the guys that people actually want, which are the wings or Zion. Isaac Jacobson, locked in versus lazy Rui defense is a crazy contrast, especially on the weak side and guarding the guy in the dunker spot. I agree. Bloodhound, JV is not a good defender. You can't play him at the end of the games. I also agree. Jovan, any players from the past that were tied to the Lakers but never played for them? The one guy I wish they got, they never did, was Andre Miller. I mean, I would throw in Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. That trade, I think, would have helped them. Recent ones, Bojan Bogdanovic was a big one, but they just got their boy on in Dalton Knecht. Okay, let's do 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna wrap up. Isaac Jacobson, ideally a trade would get rid of D'Lo and get a decent defender. I agree. Especially with Dalton, I think D'Lo's a little bit more expendable. Rob Earth, if we do not get a towering center, Wendell Carter Jr. would be an excellent pairing with AD. He's an athletic forward center like Bam on Team USA and a good rebounder as well. I would love Wendell Carter. I would have him right there with like Walker Kessler. I would put Miles Turner as the best possible, but again, I don't even think he's going to be available. But in terms, like, I would put Walker Kessler and Wendell like right there at the top. Rob Hader, are we winning tomorrow? Okay, let's get out of here on this one. I'm going to say yeah. I think that the Lakers, good point, Glenn. Sorry about Wendell Carter Jr. I'm not sure if he can't even be traded this year. So that's now that I remember that's a good point. Can't be traded till the summer, but I'm going to say the Lakers win tomorrow. I think coming off the Orlando win, like, as I said last night, it was the shortest media availabilities of the season for LeBron and AD. They both spoke for 2 minutes each. They both were very upset, AD for missing the free throws. So I think the Lakers, also I think JJ's had the playbook for like how to win over the fan base and certain things to say, certain things to do. And I think a lot of it comes naturally to him, but some of it I also think is like, he's intentional with it, which I also think is a good thing because you want to be in a positive light with the fan base, right? And win them over and keep them on over. So I think the Lakers are going to know, like LeBron said, it's just another test, just like any other game. But I would hope they come out with the requisite. It's a Saturday night in LA. It's your rival that has beaten you the last 2 years in the playoffs. They've won 12 of 13. You would think that the Lakers come with some extra juice, and Denver is also more susceptible, I think, than in previous seasons. We don't know yet with Jokic and Aaron Gordon, but I assume both will probably play. Maybe Gordon doesn't, but I'm going to say Lakers win. Leon G, yeah, it would go a long way with the fan base to beat Denver in the first matchup. I agree. Glenn, love the show, Jovan. You're the GOAT. See you on the next one. Yeah, so let's get out of here on that. I'm going to wrap. But as always, you guys, if you have any follow-up questions, be sure to drop them in the comments. But that'll do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. For those watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications, and like and comment on this video. For those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. Thank you all for rocking with me for over 2 hours on a Friday afternoon/evening, depending on where you are in the world. And yeah, let's have some peace moving forward. Jody and whoever was the other person. I mean, I know Daly and the other person. I wish you guys well. I hope you guys have a great Friday night. But everyone else, thank you all so much for the support. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the questions. And I see Leon G. It's 3 a.m. in England, so happy Saturday. I appreciate you rocking with us. And I will be back Saturday night after the Lakers-Nuggets game. I will talk to you then.